Hi, so mates, welcome back. So today we are going to be learning how to make this BuBu gown. Permit my body form to be our model of the day because this is actually a client order, so there's no way I can actually share the finished look by actually modeling it. So if this looks like what you're interested in, continue watching. Let's get into it. So for today's tutorial, you're going to be needing about a yard of sequins. So this material is called sequins. I know a lot of us actually know this material. I have just 1 yard here, and then for the second material I'm going to be working with Mikado, and I have roughly 3 yards of Mikado. So I'm going to set it aside, and then I'm going to create my starting points, top line or shoulder line, so whatever you call it. I'm just going to come down by a few inches, just as you can see me do. So we are going to be marking both front and back in one pattern. So as regards to that, the first thing you are going to do is to mark your back neckline first. So for the neck depth for the back, I'm going to be using 1 inch. Okay, the neck depth I'm just going to use 1 inch, and then for the neck width I'm going to mark 3.5 inch. Okay, and then I'm going to connect to create my neckline. I'm just going to connect it like so. I am going to label it as the back neckline. So I'm going to label it as the back neckline, and then I'm going to come down by 3.5 inch. So this is going to serve as my front neckline depth. Okay, so this is the front neckline depth. I'm also going to connect it back to the 3.5 inch before. I'm also going to label it as the front neckline. Okay, so this is 3 inches while the other one is 1 inch. So the next thing we are going to do is to determine our sleeve length. So remember, this is actually cut together. So you cut both shoulder and sleeve together. So for my clients, like I said, I'm making this dress for a client, so I'm going to be working with 19 inches. So remember that this actually varies, so it depends on what you want. So for me, I'll be making use of 19 inches. So if you're confused, you can actually measure this on your client so that you know what to use. So for me, I'm working with 19 inches. And then for my chest line, I'm not going to use my actual chest line. I'm going to come down by 12 inches. So remember, this is actually a free gown, so it needs to be free. It's not going to have zipper at the back. So that is why I'm coming down by 12 inches. So the next thing I'm going to do, from the 19 inches, I'm going to connect it. I'm going to create a straight line to that 12 inches. So that will be my sleeve length, just as you can see. And then I'm going to create my chest line, which is the 12 inches that I came down with, just as you can see. So I came down by 12 inches, remember, and then for the sleeve length I use 19 inches. So remember, like I said, I'm working for a client, so try to measure your client's sleeve length so that you know where to stop, you know how many inches to use. So another thing we are going to do now is to determine how bogus we want it to be. So to do that, you are going to divide your hip circumference by 4. So the person I'm working for, her hip circumference is 44, then divide by 4 is 11. So I'm going to be adding 5 inches. So it will be 16 inches. So for the width, I'm going to be marking 16 inches. I think this is actually too much. I would rather make it 4 inches. So I'll just add 4 inches so that I will use 15 inches. So our hip circumference divided by 4, then plus 4 inches. So our hip circumference is 44. 44 divided by 4, I'm going to be left with 11. Then plus 4 is going to give me 15. So from the center front, I'm going to go in by 15 inches. What I'm working with now is her hip circumference divided by 4 plus 4 inches. So if you want it bogus, you can use hip circumference divided by 4 plus 5 or plus 6 inches. It just depends on what you want. You have seen my finished look, so I'm going to measure the length now. So guys, for the length, it depends on who you're working for, or it depends on what you want. So for me, I'm going to actually mark 52 inches first, though I will later add another inches. So I just want to mark this and then measure. So I first of all mark 52 inches. So it wasn't enough because I'm still going to hem this with a few inches. So this is it, 52 inches full as my full length. I later change it to, so I'm going to continue with my 15 inches width to that point from my center front. Okay, remember I was marking 15 inches before from my center front, which is my width. Remember how I got the 15 inches, my hip circumference divided by 4 plus 4 inches. So I'm going to connect it from the top now to my full length. So you can actually see that this is actually short I'm going to add to the length later, but for now I'm just going to create my armhole first. So just place your curve ruler like this and then create the armhole. So you can actually use freehand if you don't have this ruler, just use freehand to create it. And then you are going to come over to the shoulder line, come down by 1.5 inch. So we are going to use this as our shoulder slope and then connect it back to your neckline. Okay, so this is actually to give it that sleeve shape at the top. So another thing you are going to do is to add 0.5 inches at the top. Okay, the shoulder line, add 0.5 inch, and then come over to the neckline, the front neckline, you are going to add 0.5 inch. So I would rather measure than actually do that blindly. So just as you can see now, add 0.5 inch to the front neckline. Remember, we'll actually mark both front and back neckline. So add 0.5 inch to the front neckline and then add 0.5 inch to the back neckline, which is the first 1 inch we came down with. So hope this is clear. So also go ahead and then create your allowance. So just as you can see me do now, the next thing we are going to do now is to come over to the down. Come over to the down. Remember, like I said, that I'm still going to add extra because I don't think 52 inches will be enough. So I'm going to add extra 8 inches. Okay, so in other words, everything I use will be a total of 60 inches. Remember, it actually depends on who you are working for. You can choose to measure from their shoulder to the floor length or their ankle to actually know where to stop. So this is a total of 60 inches that I am working with as my full length. So this is it actually for this pattern. I'm not going to add allowance because I don't want to use allowance. My allowance is already included in the 4 inches that I added because she doesn't want it to be bogus. So I'm going to go ahead now and then cut out. So this is it. We are going to cut out the back. So remember, it's the front and back neckline. So and then the 1 inch is the back neckline. So we are going to cut out the back. And then, like I said, I'm not going to add any other allowance because I'm working for someone and then she doesn't want it bogus. So the 4 inches are added. My allowance is included. So I'm just going to cut off without adding any allowance. If you want to, you can as well add. So I'll only add to the shoulder line and the neckline. So this is it. Just as you can see now, this is it for the back pattern. So what you're going to do, the center back, you are going to mark chalk on the center back. Don't notch, just mark the center back just as you can see, and then remove your pattern. So I'm just going to remove my pattern. What you're going to do, remember we already marked the center back now, so just open it up. So as you can see, this is the center back that we already indicated with our chalk. So what you're going to do now, from the top neckline, you are going to come down by at least 4 inches. Okay, so come down by at least 4 inches and then mark it with your chalk. Okay, mark it with your chalk, and then when you're done, you're going to take your scissors and then open it. Remember, this is not going to have zipper, so this is actually for our heads to be able to pass through without stress. So open to 4 inches and then set it aside, and then we are going to cut out the front piece. So to cut out the front piece, remember the first one is our back neckline, so we are going to cut off the rest piece that we have there so that we can actually use that as our front neckline. So just cut it off. Okay, now we are left with 3.5 inches depth. So that is what we are going to use as our front neckline. So this is the only difference between the front and back. Just go ahead and then cut out. So I'm still not going to add any allowance to the side. I already have that on the pattern paper because of the extra 4 inches I added. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut out. So this is it for the front piece. So this is it, just as you can see now. I'm going to set it aside and then bring in my front pattern. So this is my front pattern. So what I'm going to do now is to go in from my neckline by 5.5 inch. So you can see that I didn't add my neck allowance actually. So I'm just going to mark 5.5 inch from this point, and then I'm going to come down by the person half length is actually 17 inches. Okay, and then I'm going to add extra 3 inches. So I'm going to be marking 20 inches. You can actually have more than this length. It depends on who you're working for and or what you want. So the style inspiration is actually everywhere. Just check and then you choose what you want to do or how long you want yours to be. So for the width, I'm going to be marking, I think, 4.5 inch. I'm going to be working with 4.5 inch. So I'm going to connect this to see what it will look like. So I'm going to connect it first, and then at this point I think I will just go out by 1/2 inch. I later wished I left it like this too. So I think you should leave yours as 4.5 inch. Don't add this 1/2 inch I'm adding, because I later wish I didn't add it, to be frank. So I later added 1/2 inch, which I later regretted. I wish I didn't add it, so don't add it. So I'm going to cut off. You leave yours as 4.5 inch. Don't make it 5 inch like I did. And then this is it. You can, if you actually love mine, you can choose to. It's fine. Do you? So what we just mark now is for our sequence. So all you need to do is to place your sequence fabric on fold, because we are going to cut it out on fold, and then go ahead and pin down. So when you pin down, just go ahead and cut out. This is going to be the turning for the front, and then we are going to set it aside so that we can cut out the back. So this is it for the back piece. So what we're going to do is to bring in your back main piece. So just as you can see now, just spread it open as you can see me do, and then what you're going to do is to mark out the neckline. Okay, just put it together as you can see, and then mark out the neckline. Okay, carefully mark out the neckline, and then take it to the shoulder like so. Okay, do the same thing to the other side. Repeat the same thing to the other shoulder as you can see now. So when you're done, indicate the center back, also the points where we actually slash. Okay, just as you can see. So bring in the front piece. Remember, we are going to be interfacing it, so use the shoulder width of the front as the back, and then do the same thing to the other side so that it will actually align. When you're done, all you need to do is to come down by 4 inches. Remember, the front slit was 4 inches, so we are going to maintain it, and then curve your shoulder to the down like this, and then to the other side. So at this point, you are actually to decide what you want. Okay, so what I have there is roughly 10 inches. You have to choose what you want. If you feel it's too big, you can reduce it. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and then cut out. Like I said, if you think it's too much, you can actually reduce it. What I have is 10 inches, so you can do whatever you want. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead now and then cut out, just as you can see me do. So after cutting out, the next thing we are going to do after cutting out is to slit the middle. Okay, so that middle part, we are still going to slit it open. Remember, you are going to stop at 4 inches. Please don't exceed 4 inches. So slit it open and then stop at 4 inches. So I already marked that before. So this is it now. So you can actually shape the back, the down part, to whatever you want. So I'm going to trim it off a little. Remember, you can actually make it whatever size you want, so long as you don't make it less than 4 inches slits that we have. So whatever you do at this point is your choice. So this is it. So I went ahead to actually interface it. Remember, sequence is actually very funny to work with, so I choose to interface it with paper stitch so that it will be easier for me. So what we are going to do, place it shoulder to shoulder, and then we are going to join by 1/2 inch. Please make sure you actually interface it. It will make it relax, and then it will be easier for you to actually work with. So I'm going to pin it shoulder to shoulder. Remember, that's the front and the back. So just pin it together as you can see me do now. So when you are done with this side, you are going to go over to the other side and then repeat the same thing. Just pin it on the shoulder, just as you can see me do now. So after doing that, we are going to sew by 1/2 inch and then stitch on the other side by 1/2 inch. So this is it. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'm going to set it aside first so that we'll do the same thing to the main piece. So set it aside and then bring in the main piece. So for the main piece, what we're going to do, open it up. This is it for the front. Okay, this is it for the front, and then I'm going to bring in the back piece. So I'm really sorry at this point, my camera distance is not that high for us to actually see everything complete. So I'm going to place it shoulder to shoulder, and then I'm going to try as much as possible to explain it in a way that we'll understand it. So place it shoulder to shoulder and then pin down, just as you can see me do now. You're going to pin it on this side to the end. So when you're done, just pin it to the end. When you're done, we are going to repeat the same thing on the other side. So pin it to the ends, come over to this side and then repeat the same thing. So you are also going to pin it to the end, just as you can see me do now. Do the same thing. So when you're done, what we are going to do next is to sew by 1/2 inch. So sew by 1/2 inch and then sew on the other side by 1/2 inch. So I will do that and then bring the whole piece back. So this is it after joining. So I already joined and then I iron out the seam. So this is it. So ignore this part. Actually my paper actually tore. That's the interfacing paper, the paper I used to interface it. So this is it for the main piece. Also I already joined and then I iron out the shoulder line. So make sure you iron it out very well. It will make it a lot easier for you. So what we are going to do now is to open it up very well and then bring in the interfacing. So the right side of the interfacing is going to be facing the wrong side of the fabric. Okay, the right side of the interfacing, the right side of your sequence should be facing the wrong side of the fabric. And then what we are going to do is to pin down shoulder to shoulder. You can see what I'm doing. Make sure you align it at the shoulder and then pin down. Okay, pin it down carefully. The round neckline, do the same thing. Just carefully do this at this point. Just be very careful and make sure you pin down. So this will actually make it easier for you to when you are joining. So just pin it round, as you can see me do now. Pin it. When you're done, come over to the back. So it's still the same thing that you are going to do when it comes to the back. Also pin down carefully. When you come to the slit part, you can see what I'm doing. So pin it, the line, the interfacing to the main piece, the interfacing to the main piece. That's how you are going to pin it. So this is it now. I'm going to mark out a 1/2 inch round. So just carefully use your pencil, your chalk, whatever you have to mark out 1/2 inch. As you can see me do now, mark the neckline round. So when you are done with the front, come over to the back. So you're going to repeat the same thing. Remember, it was 1/2 inches allowance that we added. So you're going to take off 1/2 inches around the neckline. So when you come over to the slitted part, you are also going to take off 1/2 inch, though we didn't add any allowance. So just take off 1/2 inch. You can see what I'm doing. Mark it round like that. Take it up from this point like so, and then mark your neckline, your back neckline round. So this is it now, guys. So all you need to do is to go over to your machine exactly the way we mark it. Go ahead and sew it like that. So I will do just that and bring it back. So guys, welcome back. So just like I instructed us, I already stitched round. So also notch round when you're done stitching. Just notch each of the points around, just as you can see now. Make sure you notch it round, and then all you are going to do is to turn everything out from the right side. So just turn it to the right side, as you can see me do now. Turn your sequence out on the right side. So carefully do this, please. So you can see now, turn everything out, and then the edges at the back, make sure you push it out. So when you're done, all you need to do is to go over to your ironing board and then iron it properly. Please make sure you give it a good press so that it will lay flat. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll bring it back. So make sure you iron it very well. So guys, welcome back. So this is it after ironing. So you are going to fold in 1/2 inch on the edge. So at the edge, fold in 1/2 inch round and then pin down. So you can see what I'm doing. So make sure you pin, please. Don't just sew like that. Make sure you pin down, fold in 1/2 inch and pin down, fold in 1/2 inch and pin down. So that you have a very nice finished look. So that is why you should pin down. Don't just sew blindly. So fold in ½ inch. If possible, you can actually mark, you can actually use your chalk to mark the ½ inch. If you know you cannot just pin ½ inch correctly, you can use your chalk to mark it and then pin. But I am not actually using anything, I'm just using my eye gauge. So if you cannot work with eye gauge, you can as well measure to be on the safer side. So just pin it down round, just as you can see me do. We are pinning both the back and the front to make sure the shoulder to shoulder actually align is also very important. So I'm going to go ahead and pin round. So when you're done pinning, just go ahead and then top stitch it round to the end. Okay, so I will do just that and bring it back. Come back. So this is it after top stitching. So I actually iron it to create this line. So you do see this line actually on it, so it's ironing. So iron it to create it. So when you're done, all you are going to do is to cut out your band for the sleeve. So make sure it's up to 4 inches width. Okay, cut out about 5 inch, then fold in half inch at the end, and then fold into 2 and iron. So I also added interfacing, as you can see. So all you are going to do is to spread it open and then come over to your sleeve. So spread it open and then come over to your sleeve area, and then all you are going to do is just to top stitch it on it. Okay, just top stitch it on it like so. Yeah, so we are going to top stitch it on it. So first of all, just place it like this and then pin down. Okay, so make sure you are not using more than ½ inch to actually top stitch. Okay, so when you're done, you are going to do the same thing to this other side. Also place it like this and then pin down also, just as you can see me do. Also carefully pin it down, pin it on it like so. So when you're done, also top stitch. So when you're done top stitching, all you are going to do is to flip it over like so, right side to the right side, and then you are going to join by the side, at the side by ½ inch. So you are going to join at the side by 1 inch, sorry, not ½ inch, join by 1 inch at the side, and then stop about 10 inches before the full length. So you are going to do the same thing to this side. Just cut off the excesses and then also join by 1 inch and then stop at 10 inches before the full length. So I'll go ahead and do that and then I'll bring it back. So this is it after joining, just like I instructed us. Then the down, I hem by a few inches, and then by the side I iron in a few inches. You can see the edges is rough, so I'm going to weave the edges when I am done. So if you have means to weave, you can weave. If you don't have means, you can take it to people that know how to weave. So you need to weave inside round. Where to weave inside because of how rough Mikado edge can actually be. So add loop to one side, I use elastic. To the other side, add button. This will help you to hold the neckline. So I'll give it a good press and then I'll share the finished look with us. Guys, thank you so much for watching. This is the finished look. I will see you in my next video. Bye.